You're sitting in your $2,800 a month apartment scrolling through Instagram at 11 p.m. Your paycheck just hit $6,200 after taxes. That's almost $75,000 a year, which sounds like it should feel like winning, right? But here's the thing, you don't feel rich, you feel broke. You're looking at your buddy Marcus posting from his trip to Dubai, and your college roommate Sarah just announced she's buying a second rental property, and some finance influencer is talking about how she saves $4,000 a month while you're over here trying to figure out how you're going to make it to the next paycheck without touching your savings. Again, meanwhile, across town there's this guy making $42,000 a year. He's sharing a house with two roommates, driving a 2014 Honda with 200,000 miles on it. And you know what? He feels fine. Not rich, but fine. He's not panicking at 2 a.m. about money. He's not avoiding his bank app. He's just living his life. And that right there, that's the paradox nobody's talking about in 2026. The rich feel poor, the poor feel rich. Or at least, they feel less stressed than the people who are supposedly doing way better. And the math behind why this happens is absolutely brutal. Let me show you. Here's what happened. Between 2022 and early 2026, median household income in the United States crept up to around $83,730, which seems like progress until you realize that in inflation-adjusted terms, we're basically flat. We're treading water. But groceries? Oh, groceries are up 31% since early 2023. Food at home prices jumped another 2.4% in 2025 alone. Your rent? The average one bedroom in a major city is sitting around $1,800 to $2,100 depending on where you are, and in places like New York or San Francisco, you're laughing if you think you're getting anything under $3,000. Car payments hit an all-time high in Q4 of 2025 at $772 per month for new vehicles. That's not a car payment, that's a second rent. So your income went up maybe 2%, maybe 3% if you're lucky, but your cost of living went up way faster than that. And this is where it gets weird. The people making $80,000 or $90,000 or even $120,000 are the ones losing their minds. They're the ones posting on Reddit at midnight like, I make six figures and I feel broke, what am I doing wrong? And the answer is, you're not doing anything wrong. You're stuck in the most expensive income bracket in American history. You make too much to qualify for help, but not enough to actually feel secure. You're in what I call the financial no man's land. Let me introduce you to lifestyle creep, or if you want to get fancy, hedonic adaptation. Basically, your brain does this thing where every upgrade becomes your new baseline. You get a raise, and for about 2 weeks you feel amazing. You're like, yes, I made it. I'm finally ahead, and then something happens. Your brain recalibrates. That raise that felt life-changing in January feels normal by March, and instead of saving that extra $500 a month, you upgraded your car. You moved to a nicer apartment. You started eating out more because, hey, you can afford it now, right? You're not being irresponsible. You're just living the life you earned. Except here's the trap. Every upgrade you make comes with a new baseline cost that doesn't go away. That nicer apartment, that's $400 more every single month. That car payment, $772 locked in for the next 6 years. That gym membership, the premium streaming services, the better coffee, the nicer clothes because you're in a professional job now and you've got to look the part. None of that stuff feels like lifestyle creep in the moment. It feels like normal adult life. But when you add it all up, you just turned a $4,000 a month budget into a $5,500 a month budget, and your raise was only $500 after taxes. So now you're making more money than you ever have in your life, and you have less margin than when you were making $50,000. That's not a gap. That's a chasm. And it gets worse, because we've got this new thing happening in 2026 that psychologists are calling money dysmorphia. It's like body dysmorphia, but for your bank account. You look at your finances and you see broke even when objectively you're doing okay. The Credit Karma study from last year found that 43% of Gen Z and 41% of millennials experience this. Almost half of young people have a completely distorted perception of their own financial reality. And you know what's driving it? Social media. I know you're sick of hearing that social media ruins everything. But hang on, this is different. It's not just that you're seeing highlight reels, it's that you're seeing financial highlight reels without any of the context. Your feed is full of people talking about their investment portfolios, their side hustles that are making 10K a month, their passive income streams, their real estate deals. And your brain starts doing this automatic comparison thing where you stack your behind the scenes against everyone else's highlight reel. So you're making $75,000, which is above the national median, and you feel like a failure because some 24-year-old on TikTok just bought her third rental property. What you don't see is that her parents gave her $80,000 for the down payment. Or that Marcus in Dubai is about to come home to $14,000 in credit card debt. Or that Sarah, with the rental properties, is house poor and stressed out of her mind. But she's not posting about that part. Here's the research. A 2025 study found that nearly 40% of Gen Z admit they've gone into debt to keep up appearances on social media. Not because they needed something, because they needed to look like they could afford something. That's not a spending problem. That's a perception crisis manufactured by comparison culture. Meanwhile, let's go back to that guy making $42,000. Why does he feel okay? Because his lifestyle hasn't inflated past his income. He's living in his actual financial reality. He's not trying to look like he makes $80,000. He's not upgrading every time he gets a bonus. His car is paid off, his rent is $900 because he's got roommates. He's not on the hedonic treadmill. And more importantly, he's probably not spending 3 hours a day on Instagram watching people flex their wealth. Now let me show you the math that nobody talks about. Let's say you're that person making $75,000. After taxes, health insurance, 401k contributions, you're taking home maybe $4,500 a month. Let's build your budget. Rent, $1,800. Car payment, $750, because you financed that used SUV at 7.2% interest. Car insurance, $180. Gas, $200. Groceries, $450 because food costs are up and you're trying to eat healthy. Utilities and internet, $150. Student loans, $350. Phone, $80. Subscriptions, Netflix, Spotify, gym, that app you forgot about, $120. We're at $4,080. You've got $420 left for literally everything else. Clothes, haircuts, going out, saving, emergencies. You just made $75,000 and you've got $400 of breathing room. One unexpected expense, one car repair, one medical bill, and you're in the red. That's why you feel broke. Because functionally you are. But here's where it gets really dark. That $750 car payment, over 6 years, you're paying $54,000 for a car that's worth maybe $35,000 right now and will be worth $18,000 when you're done paying for it. You just lit $36,000 on fire. But wait, it's worse. If you took that $750 a month and invested it instead in a basic index fund averaging 8% returns, in 30 years that's $1.1 million. You traded $1 million for a car that's going to be in a junkyard in 15 years. That's the invisible math. Every recurring expense you commit to isn't just costing you today. It's costing you compound interest for the rest of your life. And the institutions know this. Car dealerships aren't selling you transportation. They're selling you a monthly payment. The guy at the dealership doesn't ask what you can afford. He asks what monthly payment works for your budget, because he knows if he can get you to think in terms of payments instead of total cost, he can sell you way more car than you need. Same thing with housing. Landlords aren't just raising rent because costs are going up. They're raising rent because they know you'll pay it. They know you need to live somewhere. And they know that in 2026, the average person is spending 35% to 40% of their income on housing. In the 1980s, it was 25%. We've normalized being housing cost burdened. We've normalized having no margin. And the really sinister part? The system benefits when you feel slightly broke all the time. When you're stressed about money but not completely destitute, you keep working, you keep consuming. You keep signing up for the monthly payment plans. You keep using credit cards to smooth over the gaps. The average credit card interest rate right now is over 21%. That's not a financial product. That's a trap designed to keep you on the hamster wheel forever. So the rich feel poor because they've locked themselves into high-cost lifestyles that require constant income to maintain. One job loss, one medical emergency, one economic downturn, and the whole thing collapses. You're not building wealth. You're renting a lifestyle that feels like wealth. Meanwhile, the person making $42,000 with low fixed costs, they've got flexibility, resilience. If something goes wrong, they can adjust. They're not locked into a $2,800 apartment lease and a $750 car payment. They've got options. And psychologically, that feeling of having options is worth more than the feeling of having nice stuff. There's research on this. It's called the hedonic treadmill, and it shows that after a certain point, usually around $75,000 to $80,000 in household income, additional money doesn't make you happier unless you're using it to buy time or freedom, but most people don't do that. They use raises to buy more stuff, which creates more obligations, which creates more stress, which makes them feel broke even though they're making six figures. Here's the thing that's really messing people up in 2026. Wealth inequality is the worst it's been in 3 decades. The top 1% now hold almost one-third of U.S. household wealth. That gap is widening, and because of social media, you're seeing more of that wealth than any generation in history. You're watching people fly private, buy Teslas, live in penthouses, and your brain is telling you that's normal. That's the baseline. So when you're making $80,000 and living in a regular apartment and driving a regular car, you feel like you're failing. But here's the reality check. A household income of $80,000 puts you in the top 40% of American earners. You're not struggling, you're middle class. But the middle class in 2026 doesn't feel middle anymore. It feels bottom, because the goalpost for making it has moved so far out of reach that even people doing objectively well feel like they're losing. The system is designed this way. Banks want you to feel slightly broke, so you keep borrowing. Retailers want you to feel slightly behind, so you keep buying. Social media platforms want you to feel slightly inadequate, so you keep scrolling. And it's working. Consumer debt is at record levels. People are making more than ever and saving less than ever. The personal savings rate in the US dropped to around 4% in 2025. In the 1970s, it was over 12%. We're spending everything we make and then some. So what's the escape route? How do you stop feeling poor when you're not actually poor? First, you've got to kill the comparison. Seriously. Unfollow the finance influencers. Mute the friends who only post flex content. Your financial reality has nothing to do with someone else's Instagram story. Nothing. That comparison is stealing your peace, and it's not giving you any useful information in return. Second, you've got to audit your fixed costs. Sit down and add up every recurring monthly expense you've committed to. Rent, car, insurance, subscriptions, debt payments. That number is your financial prison. Every dollar of fixed costs is a dollar you have to earn every single month just to stay afloat. You want freedom? You lower that number. You don't need a cheaper car because you're poor. You need a cheaper car because it buys you options. Third, you've got to understand the difference between wealth and the appearance of wealth. Wealth is money in the bank. Wealth is investments. Wealth is options. The appearance of wealth is a nice car, a nice apartment, nice clothes. Those things cost money. They don't make money. And every dollar you spend trying to look wealthy is a dollar that's not actually building wealth. Here's a real example. Let's say you downgrade from a $2,800 apartment to a $1,800 apartment. You just freed up $1,000 a month. You take that $750 car payment, sell the car, buy a $8,000 used sedan in cash, and you free up another $750. Now you've got $1,750 a month that was going to lifestyle costs. If you invest that at 8% returns for 10 years, that's $320,000. In 20 years, it's $1 million. In 30 years, it's $2.4 million. You just traded a nicer apartment and a nicer car that you'll forget about in 5 years for financial independence in your 50s. That's not deprivation, that's strategy. But here's the hard part. You've got to be okay with looking less successful than you are. You've got to be okay driving a car that's not impressive, living in an apartment that's just fine, wearing clothes that are just normal. Because the people around you are going to judge, they're going to assume you're struggling, and you've got to be mentally strong enough to not care. Because the truth is, the people judging you are the ones who are actually broke. They're the ones living paycheck to paycheck in a luxury apartment driving a car. They can't afford. You're the one building actual wealth, you're the one with margin. You're the one who's going to retire at 50 while they're still making car payments at 60. The rich feel poor because they're trapped in a high-cost lifestyle that requires constant performance to maintain. The poor feel rich, or at least stable, because they're living within their actual means and they're not drowning in comparison culture. The key is to make rich person money and live with poor person flexibility. That's the cheat code nobody wants to hear because it's not sexy. It doesn't look good on Instagram, but it works. You want to know the real flex in 2026? It's not the car. It's not the apartment. It's not the vacation photos. The real flex is having $50,000 in your savings account and nobody knows about it. The real flex is being able to quit your job if it gets toxic because you've got a year of expenses saved. The real flex is turning 35 and realizing you're actually ahead instead of just looking ahead. But that requires you to completely flip your relationship with money. You've got to stop seeing spending as success and start seeing margin as success. You've got to stop optimizing for what impresses other people and start optimizing for what gives you peace. And you've got to stop comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 12. The economic system in 2026 is designed to make you feel inadequate, so you keep spending. The culture is designed to make you feel behind, so you keep chasing. And the only way to win is to opt out of the game entirely. Live below your means. Invest the difference, ignore the noise. And in 10 years, 20 years, you'll be the one who actually made it while everyone else is still trying to look like they made it. That's the difference between rich people who feel poor and poor people who feel rich. One group is playing the appearance game, the other group opted out. And the crazy thing, the ones who opted out are the ones who end up actually winning. You've got the knowledge now, you can't unknow it. The question is what you're going to do with it. You're going to keep renting the appearance of success, or are you going to build the reality of it?